The egg is a potent and multifaceted symbol in the occult, representing creation, potential, and transformation. It appears across various mystical traditions and esoteric systems, often linked to profound spiritual truths and metaphysical principles. Here are some key meanings of the egg in the occult. Cosmic creation and the origin of life. The egg is often seen as a symbol of the universe's birth or the primordial state of existence. In many esoteric traditions, it represents the cosmic egg, sometimes called the 𝗤𝗱𝗱𝗏 egg, which embodies the origin of all creation. This cosmic egg contains the potential for the universe, and its breaking signifies the beginning of time, space, and existence. Potential and manifestation. An unbroken egg symbolizes infinite potential, containing the promise of life or transformation. In occult thought, it can represent latent energy or the seed of an idea before it manifests in physical form. This aligns with the Hermetic principle of, as above, so below, as the egg serves as a microcosmic representation of the larger creative process, transformation and rebirth. The egg is often associated with cycles of death and rebirth, a theme central to many mystical traditions. As a vessel of life, it symbolizes the process of transformation, whether it be spiritual awakening, alchemical refinement, or personal growth. The cracking of the eggshell represents the breaking of old limitations to allow new life to emerge, paralleling themes of enlightenment or transcendence. Spiritual protection and purification. In various occult practices, eggs are used as tools for protection and cleansing. For example, in folk magic traditions, eggs are believed to absorb negative energy or spiritual impurities. Rituals involving eggs often focus on breaking curses, clearing energetic blockages, or protecting against harm, feminine energy and the divine womb. The egg is closely associated with the feminine principle, often symbolizing fertility, creation, and the nurturing aspect of the divine feminine. It is seen as a representation of the universal womb, the source from which all life emerges. Symbolism in alchemy. In alchemy, the egg is a key symbol in the great work of spiritual transformation. Known as the philosophical egg, it represents the containment of opposites, the union of spirit and matter, and the vessel where the alchemical transformation occurs. Breaking the egg signifies the release of creative potential, leading to spiritual enlightenment. Connection to sacred geometry and the soul. The egg's shape, an oval, represents harmony, balance, and the continuum of life. Its geometry is also associated with the human soul and its journey through different stages of existence, from the unmanifest to the manifest. In summary, the egg is a profound occult symbol that encapsulates creation, potential, transformation, and the cycles of existence. Its versatility and deep meanings make it a central motif in mystical traditions, guiding practitioners in understanding the mysteries of life, death, and spiritual evolution. The pyramid, as a multidimensional structure, holds deep esoteric meaning when interpreted through the lens of spiritual numerology and geometry. Using the specified vectors 3, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 33, we can construct a metaphysical framework that unifies material and spiritual dimensions. Here's an exploration of how these numbers interplay within the pyramid's geometry and symbolism. 3. The spiritual trinity and the eye of God. The number 3 symbolizes the spiritual trinity, mind, body, and spirit, or creation, preservation, and transformation. In the two-dimensional form of an equilateral triangle, 3 represents the foundation of higher spiritual truths. The apex of the triangle, or pyramid, is the eye of God, symbolizing divine insight, unity, and the omnipresent observer. This triangle forms the base framework of the pyramid's multidimensional nature, serving as the spiritual foundation. 7. Spiritual. 3 plus material 4. The number 7 integrates the spiritual 3 with the material 4, symbolizing harmony between heaven and earth. The 4 corners of the pyramid's square base represent the material elements, earth, wind, fire, and water. The three higher dimensional vectors converge upward to the apex, connecting the material base to the divine realm. Together, 7 represents the merging of opposites and the bridge between the physical and spiritual planes. 9. The front columns. The number 9 relates to the top front 2 points of the pyramid, visualized as columns. These columns symbolize spiritual enlightenment and the journey of ascending consciousness. In numerology, 9 is associated with completion, spiritual awakening, and universal truth. The front-facing nature of these points suggests a forward movement progression toward divine understanding. 11. The back columns. The number 11 corresponds to the top back 2 points of the pyramid, also visualized as columns. 11 is a master number, symbolizing intuition, alignment with higher purpose, and spiritual illumination. These columns at the back signify the foundational support of the structure, reflecting hidden knowledge and the balance between dualities. Together with the front points, 9, the pyramid's 4 uppermost points symbolize stability and multidimensional awareness. In esoteric and occult traditions, the numbers 9 and 11 hold deep symbolic meaning, often associated with the completion of a sacrificial temple or the final stages of spiritual transformation. The number 9, symbolizing the completion of a cycle and the end of a journey, represents the fulfillment of an individual's spiritual path, as well as the manifestation of divine wisdom. It is often seen as a number of initiation, where the seeker is prepared for the final transcendence. The number 11, known as a master number, is linked to illumination and spiritual awakening, serving as a gateway between the material and spiritual realms. When combined, 9 and 11 represent the completion of the sacrificial temple, a space where physical and spiritual offerings converge. The temple here is not just a structure, but a metaphor for the human being, whose spiritual and physical elements must be aligned and purified. This sacred space, formed through the union of these two powerful numbers, signifies the ultimate sacrifice of the self in pursuit of divine truth and enlightenment, marking the final step in the process of transcendence and ascension. 13. The steps of ascension. The number 13 represents the stairs or steps ascending the pyramid. 13 symbolizes transformation, death, and rebirth, reflecting the soul's journey toward enlightenment. Each step represents a level of consciousness or spiritual initiation, requiring effort and sacrifice to ascend. The climb up these steps reflects humanity's evolution from material concerns to spiritual awareness. 33. The Godhead. The number 33 represents the apex of the pyramid, the Godhead or ultimate divine state. 33 is another master number, symbolizing cosmic wisdom, enlightenment, and spiritual mastery. The apex point unifies all the other dimensions, representing the ultimate connection to divine energy and the completion of the soul's journey. The number 3 plus 3 equals 6, which corresponds to balance and harmony, suggests that attaining the Godhead restores universal equilibrium. Multidimensional interpretation. When viewed through multidimensional vectors, the pyramid becomes a dynamic structure that unifies material and spiritual dimensions. 1. Base. 4. The material world, grounded in the 4 elements. 2. Height. 3. The spiritual ascent toward the divine. Columns. 9 and 11. The stabilizing points of spiritual awareness, representing enlightenment and universal truths. 4. Steps. 13. The journey of transformation and initiation. 5. Apex. 33. The ultimate union with the divine, embodying enlightenment and cosmic consciousness, Satanism, and the eye of God. Aleister Crowley, the influential occultist and founder of 𝗧𝗏𝗻𝗲, identified the Phoenician letter An as being closely associated with the archetype of Satan in his esoteric writings. In the Hebrew alphabet, An corresponds to the numerical value of 70 and symbolizes the eye, representing perception, insight, and hidden wisdom. Crowley linked this letter to the devil card in the tarot, which he reinterpreted not as a figure of evil, but as a liberating force of individuality, rebellion, and enlightenment. In Crowley's perspective, Satan, or Shaitan, was not the adversary in a strictly moralistic sense, but an initiatory force that challenges conformity and catalyzes spiritual evolution. He viewed and as embodying this duality, the balance between light and shadow, and the capacity for humanity to rise above imposed limitations through the pursuit of higher understanding. The triangle, dolet, the Phoenician letter dolet, meaning door, was often depicted as a triangular shape, evocative of a doorway or an entry point. Its triangular form likely symbolized not just a physical door, but also the concept of transition, passage, and opportunity. For a seafaring people like the Phoenicians, doors represented thresholds, not just in their homes, but also in their journeys. The door was a point of connection and separation, a boundary between the known and the unknown. The circle, Ayan. The letter Ayan, meaning eye, was visually represented as a circle. For the Phoenicians, the eye was a symbol of perception, knowledge, and divine watchfulness. It was believed to represent both the human ability to observe the world and the god's omnipresent gaze. The circle itself, a shape without beginning or end, added a layer of mysticism, symbolizing eternity and completeness. The triangle and the circle were not arbitrary shapes. They were vessels of meaning, rooted in the daily lives and spiritual beliefs of the Phoenicians. These forms served as symbols of deeper truths about existence, movement, and awareness. As these symbols were adopted and adapted by subsequent cultures, the Greeks, who transformed dolet into delta and Ayan into omicron. The Romans, who further refined the letters into D and O, their shapes lost some of their original symbolic resonance. The circle, equilateral triangle, and 666. In an equilateral triangle, each of the three angles measures 60 degrees, which in occult symbolism can represent balance and harmony. When considering the number 360 degrees, which completes a full circle, some occult traditions drop the 0, focusing on the remaining numbers 3 and 6. The number 360 is often seen as 3 sixes, with the 3 representing the tripartite nature of existence, body, mind, and spirit, and the 6 symbolizing balance, beauty, and the harmonious forces of the universe. By dropping the 0, the focus is placed on the repetition of the number 6, emphasizing its symbolic power in mystical and esoteric systems. The reduction of 360 to 3 sixes can be interpreted as a reflection of divine order, with each 6 representing a cycle or stage in the process of creation and transformation, thus linking the geometry of the triangle with broader cosmic principles. The number 666 is often associated with Satan and Lucifer, particularly in Christian eschatology, where it is famously known as the number of the beast from the Book of Revelation. In this context, 666 symbolizes ultimate evil, the antithesis of divine order. However, in occult traditions, this number takes on a more nuanced interpretation. Here, 666 is seen not only as a symbol of darkness and rebellion, but also as a representation of the illuminated man. In these esoteric systems, the number is connected to the attainment of enlightenment, self-empowerment, and the mastery of the material world. The repetition of 6, often viewed as a symbol of balance and beauty, can also signify the perfection of human potential. The illuminated man in occultism is one who has transcended conventional morality and societal norms, embracing personal freedom and spiritual autonomy. Thus, 666 in this context represents a complex blend of both the shadow and light, embodying transformation, self-awareness, and the breaking of traditional boundaries to achieve a higher state of consciousness. Conclusion: the pyramid is not merely a geometric structure. It is a multidimensional metaphysical symbol. The numbers 3, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 33 interweaved to create a profound narrative of spiritual evolution. The journey from the material, base, to the spiritual, apex, reflects humanity's eternal quest for enlightenment. Each vector represents a critical component of this journey, with the Godhead, 33, at the apex serving as the ultimate goal of unity with the divine. The pyramid encapsulates the balance of opposites, the bridging of dimensions, and the fulfillment of universal purpose. Within the context of this picture, biblical texts represent two imports of the goddess into Israel. The first is traced in the biblical context of Phoenicia. 1 Kings 11:5 says that Solomon followed, worshipped in 1 Kings 11:33, Ashtoreth, god of the Sidonians, as well as a number of other national gods. The name Ashtoreth seems to reflect Phoenician Astarte, just as the god El is the prototype of all gods, since his name means power, and Baal the prototype of all husbands, so Asherah becomes the prototype of all spouses, feminine and fertile. Atharoth is well known at Ugarit, where she appears as mother of the gods, and wet nurse of the kings. Her main divine epithet connects her to the world of the sea. Ashratu is also attested in Mori, where she is the consort of the god Amru, but here connected to the world of the steppes and mountains like her husband. If one considers the main characteristic of the goddess, one is not surprised to find her as consort of Yahweh in Israel, and so Margalit has not hesitated to accept the interpretation of the famous 𝗧𝗿𝗍𝗶𝗁𝗱 and 𝗑𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗃 inscriptions as Yahweh and his Asherah, Yahweh being identified with Baal or El. It has been argued that the Queen of Heaven, as known from Jeremiah 7:18 and 44:15-30, is Astarte, Ishtar, or a fusion, or a cross-cultural identification of Ishtar and Astarte. The name of the goddess Ishtar is a Semitic name. However, its etymology has not yet been clearly established. It could be based on the root meaning being rich, or it could refer to the morning star. She's identified with the planet Venus, both the morning and the evening star. Some specialists believe that originally there were two Mesopotamian Venus deities, the Sumerian female Venus deity Inanna, identified with the evening star, and the Semitic male Venus deity Astarte, identified with the morning star. It is known that Inanna, Ishtar, has androgynous features. In a few cases, she is depicted as wearing a beard. She thus has a bisexual aspect. In any case, Inanna, Ishtar has several ambiguous and contradictory aspects, and thus she combines and mediates opposites. Among these aspects, we will focus on her as the goddess of sexual love and behavior, though without disregarding her other aspects. The ancients early became aware of the fact that evening and morning star were simply manifestations of the same entity. The possibility of the hermaphrodite nature of Ishtar has been pointed out. Heimple argued that although the Ishtar worshipped among the Semitic people as a morning star was originally male, he became female because he met a Sumerian goddess, Inanna, who represented an evening star, and became associated with her. The goddess Astarte was introduced into Egypt with other Syro-Palestinian deities, Baal, Reshf, Horon, Anot and Kedeshet, mainly in the beginning of the New Kingdom. Egyptian kings sent many military campaigns into the Syro-Palestinian region in this period, resulting in these 6 pagan deities being brought into Egypt, as well as battle booty such as prisoners, food, and metals, and also voluntary settlers in the form of craftsmen, merchants, and so on. Judges 2:11-13. Then the sons of Israel did evil in the sight of Yahweh, and served the Baals. They forsook Yahweh, the God of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods from among the gods of the peoples, who were around them, and bowed themselves down to them. Thus they provoked Yahweh to anger. So they forsook Yahweh and served the Baal and the Ashtoreth. Judges 3:7-8. The sons of Israel did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, and forgot Yahweh their God, and served the Baals and the Ashtoreth. Then the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Israel, so that he sold them into the hands of cognoscetis king of Aram-Naharaim. And the sons of Israel served cognoscetis 8 years. Judges 10:6-7. Then the sons of Israel again did evil in the sight of Yahweh, served the Baals and the Ashtaroth, the gods of Aram, the gods of Sidon, the gods of Moab, the gods of the sons of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines. Thus they forsook Yahweh and did not serve him. The anger of Yahweh burned against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines, and into the hands of the sons of Ammon. 1 Samuel 7:2-4. From the day that the ark remained at Kiriath-Jearim, the time was long, for it was 20 years. And all the house of Israel lamented after Yahweh. Then Samuel spoke to all the house of Israel, saying, If you return to Yahweh with all your heart, remove the foreign gods, and the Ashtaroth from among you, and direct your hearts to Yahweh, and serve him alone, he will deliver you from the hand of the Philistines. So the sons of Israel removed the Baals, and the Ashtaroth, and served Yahweh alone. 1 Samuel 12:8-11. When Jacob went into Egypt, and your fathers cried out to Yahweh, then Yahweh sent Moses and Aaron, who brought your fathers out of Egypt and settled them in this place. But they forgot Yahweh their God, so he sold them into the hand of Sisera, captain of the army of Hazor, and into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the king of Moab. And they fought against them. They cried out to Yahweh and said, We have sinned, because we have forsaken Yahweh, and have served the Baals, and the Ashtaroth. But now deliver us from the hands of our enemies, and we will serve you. Then Yahweh sent Jerubbaal and Bedan and Jephthah and Samuel, and delivered you from the hands of your enemies all around, so that you lived in security. 1 Kings 11:5. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom the detestable idol of the Ammonites. 1 Kings 11:33. Because they have forsaken me, and have worshipped Ashtaroth the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh the god of Moab, and Milcom the god of the sons of Ammon. And they have not walked in my ways, doing what is right in my sight, and observing my statutes and my ordinances, as his father David did. 2 Kings 23:13. The high places which were before Jerusalem, which were on the right of the mount of destruction, which Solomon the king of Israel had built for Ashtaroth, the abomination of the Sidonians, and for Chemosh the abomination of Moab, and for Milcom the abomination of the sons of Ammon, the king defiled. Judges 6:25-26. Now on the same night, Yahweh said to Gideon, Take your father's bull, and the second bull 7 years old, and pull down the altar of Baal which belongs to your father, and cut down the Asherah that is beside it, and build an altar to Yahweh your God on the top of this stronghold in an orderly manner, and take a second bull and offer a burnt offering with the wood of the Asherah, which you shall cut down. 1 Kings 16:32-33. So he erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria. Ahab also made the Asherah. Thus Ahab did more to provoke Yahweh God of Israel than all the kings of Israel who were before him. 2 Kings 17-16. They forsook all the commandments of Yahweh their God, and made for themselves molten images, even to calves, and made an Asherah, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served Baal. 2 Kings 18:4-5. He removed the high places, and broke down the pillars, and cut down the Asherah. He also broke in pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made, for until those days the sons of Israel burned incense to it. And it was called Nehushtan. He trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. So that after him there was none like him among all the kings of Judah, nor among those who were before him. 2 Kings 21-7. He set the carved image of Asherah that he had made, in the house of which Yahweh said to David, and to his son Solomon, In this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen from all the tribes of Israel, I will put my name forever. Deuteronomy 12:2-5. You shall utterly destroy all the places where the nations whom you shall dispossess serve their gods, on the high mountains, and on the hills, and under every green tree. You shall tear down their altars, and smash their sacred pillars, and burn their ashram with fire. And you shall cut down the engraved images of their gods, and obliterate their name from that place. You shall not act like this toward Yahweh your God, but you shall seek Yahweh at the place which Yahweh your God will choose from all your tribes, to establish his name there for his dwelling, and there you shall come. In the Old Testament, we find the singular form, Ashtoreth, only in 1 Kings 11:5-33, and 2 Kings 23:13. In 1 Kings 11:5-33, she is referred to as the goddess of the Sidonians, and 2 Kings 23:13 speaks of her as the abomination of the Sidonians. 1 Kings 11 refers to her cult as one of a number of idolatrous practices pursued by Solomon as a result of the influence of his foreign wives. 2 Kings 23:13 mentions that Josiah defiled the high place that Solomon had set up for Ashtoreth, and this is stated to have been east of Jerusalem, to the south of the Mount of Corruption. The reference to Ashtoreth as the goddess abomination of the Sidonians is entirely understandable, since we know from extra-biblical sources that Astarte was the leading goddess of Sidon. Astarte's cult is also attested elsewhere in Phoenicia, for example in Tyre, and her cult spread throughout the Mediterranean, Carthage and North Africa, Cyprus, Italy, Malta, Spain, Greece, as a result of Phoenician colonization and other contacts. All the other references to the Ashtaroth are alongside allusions to Baal, Judges 13, or the Baals, Judges 10-6, 1 Samuel 7-4, 12-10, or simply the foreign gods, 1 Samuel 7-3, and are mentioned in connection with the apostate worship of the Israelites during the period of the Judges. It may be that when we read of the Baals and the Ashtaroth, this is simply a way of speaking about Canaanite gods and goddesses generally, just as in Akkadian Ilani, 𝗖𝘆𝗰𝗲𝗍𝗍 means simply gods and goddesses. On the other hand, it is not impossible that various local manifestations of Baal and Astarte are intended. It has sometimes been supposed that the Baals and the Ashtaroth in Judges 3-7 should be amended to the Baals and the Ashtaroth, a proposal supported by the Vulgate and the Syriac version, as well as to Hebrew manuscripts. But the Ashtaroth should perhaps be preferred as the Lectio Difficilia, that is, the more difficult reading, and therefore unlikely to have been corrupted from the Ashtaroth, as has already been noted in Chapter 2. The pairing of the Ashtaroth with the Baals is appropriate, since it is clear from the Ugaritic texts and elsewhere that Astarte was a consort of Baal, as also was Anat, however, whereas Astarte was apparently more prominent as Baal's consort in the world reflected in the Old Testament. As is certainly the case in first millennium Phoenician inscriptions, it is Anat who plays the preponderant role as Baal's consort in the Ugaritic texts. Astarte does appear as Baal's spouse in the Ugaritic mythological texts, but she is less dominant. These differences may reflect regional or temporal variations. Awareness of Astarte as the consort of Baal clearly lived on late, since in Philo of Biblos circa 100 CE, we read that greatest Astartean Zeus, called both Demerus and the Dodos, king of gods, were ruling over the land with the consent of Kronos, Preparatio Evangelica, 1 hour 10 minutes and 31 seconds. Astarte may be the queen of heaven mentioned in Jeremiah 7:18 and 44-17:19, to whom the women made cakes of bread, burned incense, and poured out drink offerings. The name of the goddess Astarte occurs in the place name Ashtaroth, or Ashtaroth Karnaim, Ashtaroth of the two horns, which may be compared with the statement in Philo of Biblos that Astarte placed upon her own head a bull's head as an emblem of kingship. The name of the goddess also lingers on in an interesting expression found in the book of Deuteronomy. This is the phrase, Astrit Sonika, Deuteronomy 7:13. 28-4, 18, 51, commonly rendered as the young of your flock, and in each case mentioned alongside 𝗧𝗿𝗍𝗶𝗁𝗍𝗶, the offspring of your cattle. This expression is clearly a hangover from an earlier stage of belief in which the goddess Astarte was thought to be responsible for the fertility of the flocks of sheep. We may compare the fact that concern for livestock is explicitly attested of Astarte's Mesopotamian equivalent, Ishtar, and the Ugaritic phrase, Astarte of the field, 2:1, 148:18, presumably alludes to her concern for the fertility of the field and what was in it. The older view, found in the work of such scholars as W. Robertson Smith and 𝗧𝗿𝗍𝗶𝗁𝗍𝗶, that Astarte could actually be represented in sheep form, is without supporting evidence. Interestingly, there is evidence that 𝗲𝗁𝗲𝗶𝗁𝗍𝗶 was also regarded as a deity by the Canaanites, and he is mentioned alongside Asherah as receiving a sheep by way of offering in Kt. 148:31. This is the same text as that containing the phrase, Astarte of the field noted above. Note also the Balaam text from Dirlah 1:16, where mention is made of 𝗲𝗁𝗲𝗶𝗁𝗍𝗍, 𝗲𝗁𝗲. What relation, if any, did Astarte have to Yahweh? If, as has been seen, Astarte was the consort of Baal, and if, as I have noted in chapter 3, Yahweh and Baal were sometimes equated, then it follows that Astarte could sometimes function as Yahweh's consort. The Canaanite background of Israel's sun cult, the worship of the sun, was widespread throughout the ancient Near East. It is therefore not surprising to find allusions to it in the Old Testament. Many of these date from the period of the 7th to 6th centuries BCE. Confer Deuteronomy 4:19, 17-3, 2 Kings 23-5, 11, Jeremiah 8-2, Ezekiel 8:16, though Job 31-26:28 is later. It has therefore sometimes been supposed that its occurrence in Judah was due to the influence of the Assyrians, for whom the astral cult had an important place. However, various pieces of evidence suggest that the sun cult was Canaanite rather than Assyrian. First, all the other deities and cults that Josiah is said to have removed in 2 Kings 23 appear to have been Canaanite, not Assyrian. The Deuteronomist himself implies that Manasseh's astral cults, along with his other cults, were Canaanite. Confer to Kings 21:2-3. Other deities mentioned are Baal, Asherah and Molech. Baal, of course, is the well-known Canaanite storm god, and Asherah was a prominent Canaanite goddess. Spiekerman's view that Asherah is here a code name for the Assyrian Ishtar will not do in view of epigraphic evidence of Asherah worship in Israel, and the fact that the West Semitic equivalent of Ishtar should be Ashtoreth, Astarte, not Asherah. Finally, as for Molech, there is no evidence of child sacrifice as a form of religious worship among the Assyrians, but this is attested in the Canaanite world. Consequently, unless there is strong evidence to the contrary, we should expect the sun and astral cults to be Canaanite as well. Was Yahweh equated with the sun? It is indubitable that the cult of the sun was sometimes celebrated in Yahweh's temple in Jerusalem, 2 Kings 23-5, 11. Ezekiel 8:16. This is fully explicable on the understanding that the sun was part of the host of heaven, equals the sons of God, Job 38-7, who formed Yahweh's entourage. However, a number of scholars earlier in the last century proposed that Yahweh was equated with the sun, and this has also been argued afresh by some more recent scholars, such as Morton Smith, H.P. Stolle, H. Neer, O'Keel and C. Ullinger, 𝗖𝗆𝗶𝗁𝗶𝗁𝗍𝗶, and most thoroughly in a full-length book by J. Glenn Taylor. Mark Smith has also argued for a marked influence of solar imagery on Yahweh, without claiming that Yahweh was actually equated with the sun. Older scholars, such as 𝗧𝗿𝗍𝗶𝗁𝗍𝗶, J. Morgenstern, H. G. May, and F. J. Hollis believed that Solomon's temple was designed as a sun temple, and that at the equinoxes the sun rose above the Mount of Olives and shone into the Holy of Holies, and this was understood as a manifestation of Yahweh's glory. The notion that the devil or Satan was a fallen angel, who could also be called Lucifer, was derived from the passage in about the fall of the Shining One, son of the dawn, 𝗼𝗆𝗲𝗄𝗃, Lucifer in the Vulgate, found in Isaiah 14:12-15. This understanding appears to be already presupposed in Luke 10:18, and is found later in Church Fathers, such as Origen, Eusebius, Tertullian, and Gregory the Great. The interpretation of the verses in this way was, in effect, a remythologization of the passage, for the author of Isaiah 14:12-15 had used an ancient myth simply as an illustration of the hubris of a historical ruler, the king of Babylon, confer Isaiah 14:4, rather than literally, and the historical context in Isaiah was ignored by those who remythologized the verses. How you have fallen from heaven, O Shining One, son of the dawn! How you are cut down to the ground, you who laid the nations low! You said in your heart, I shall ascend into the heavens. Above the stars of God, I will set my throne on high. And I shall sit on the mount of assembly on the heights of Zaphon. I shall ascend above the heights of the clouds. I shall make myself like the Most High. But you have been brought down to Sheol, to the bottom of the pit. The Shining One as Venus, the view that, the Shining One, son of the dawn, denotes the morning star. Venus is the most likely one. This star rises before the dawn, and is eventually blotted out by the light of the sun. The view that the star in Isaiah 14:12-15 denotes Venus finds strong support in the ancient versions. The LXX renders the name by the morning star, that rose in the morning, and the Vulgate similarly translates Lucifer, the morning star, that used to rise in the morning. Again, the Targum has, who was resplendent among the sons of men as the bright star, Venus. Among the stars, Venus as Astarte. In the light of the above discussion, it has emerged that Isaiah 14:12-15 refers to the rise and disappearance of the morning star Venus, and that this has been interpreted in terms of Canaanite mythology. Is it possible to identify the morning star Venus with a figure in Canaanite mythology? It is very probable that this role was filled by the god Astarte, even though this is nowhere explicitly stated. In South Arabia, the god Astarte was certainly identified with Venus, and in Mesopotamia, the cognate deity, the goddess Ishtar, sometimes represented as male, likewise represented the planet Venus. Similarly, the Canaanite female equivalent of Astarte, Astarte, 𝗧𝗿𝗱𝗏𝗏, was equated with the Greek goddess Aphrodite, equals Venus. It is probable that Astarte and Astarte represent Venus as the morning and evening star respectively. The Bible does not provide the specific names of most of King Solomon's wives, but here is a list based on the limited information available. Pharaoh's daughter, from Egypt, follower of Egyptian religion. The Egyptians practiced religious syncretism, incorporating elements of worship from neighboring cultures, including the Canaanites, Phoenicians. Isis was worshipped in syncretic contexts with Astarte. Set was worshipped in syncretic contexts with Baal. Nama, from Ammon, an Ammonite, and mother of Rehoboam. Followers of Milcom or Molech, Canaanite religion. Worship of Molech involved ritual offerings, including children, often described as passing them through the fire. Molech had a unique identity, but was sometimes worshipped in syncretic contexts with Chemosh or Baal. Moabite women, from Moab, followers of Chemosh, a Canaanite god. Chemosh, though distinct, could be worshipped alongside Baal in syncretic religious practices. Ammonite women, from Ammon, followers of Milcom or Molech, Canaanite religion. Worship of Molech involved ritual offerings, including children, often described as passing them through the fire. Molech had a unique identity, but was sometimes worshipped in syncretic contexts with Chemosh or Baal. Edomite women, from Edom, followers of Edomite deities, Canaanite religion. The chief god of the Edomites, Kos, was a storm god, similar to Baal in neighboring Canaanite religion. Inscriptions show that Cos was revered as a national god, similar to how Chemosh was for the Moabites and Milcom for the Ammonites. The Edomites practiced religious syncretism, incorporating elements of worship from neighboring cultures, including the Canaanites, Moabites, and Israelites. Sidonian women, from Sidon, followers of Ashtoreth, Astarte. Ashtoreth was often regarded as Baal's consort, forming a divine pair in Canaanite religion. Hittite women, from the Hittites, adherents of Hittite religion. Adopted Ishtar, i.e. Astarte, often regarded as Baal's consort, forming a divine pair in Canaanite religion. These categories reflect their tribal, national, or religious backgrounds.